Welcome back, everybody. So I'd like to take this video and take the time in this video to show you my calisthenics progress, hopefully motivate some of you. Maybe if you guys are already training calisthenics, it'll give you some tips. I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm learning just like you guys, but I think I made some good progress, as you'll see in this video. So I think some of my insight might be helpful. And if anything, you'll just find it entertaining seeing my progress. So here's a little just introduction showing the summary synopsis of my progress. You can see that I've pretty much unlocked a full planche, although my form isn't perfect. My legs are kind of too high, but at the same time, the form doesn't need to be perfect to unlock the movement itself, right? You'll refine the form later. And also during the process, I think I've also made some good gains in muscular size, right? Hypertrophy, just from doing planche, not even like really doing much bodybuilding work. And we'll see some of that. So you can see here I started with the planche in July. This was like my second attempt ever just seeing the planche. I didn't even know a planche existed before this point. You can see here my planche was awful, like bent legs, bent arms, no protraction, scapula, like your shoulder girdle should be protracted or pushed forward instead of retracted and pulled back. So my form was completely just wrong here in every respect, but it'll get better as we move forward. So that was my starting point in the end of July. And then at this point in August, I actually started training the planche properly. So I started using more straight arms to the best of my ability. I started in the advanced tuck progression, which is easier than having your legs all the way out. And then here I attempted a straddle planche with your legs split. Again, my arms were bending though, so I think it was too early for that. Then here in October, I actually think I unlocked the straddle planche in like 2 to 3 months later, although my legs were kind of not good. Here's awful form planche push-ups. Again, you ideally want to hold the reps at the end, but still I was learning, so can't fault me too much. Although it looks absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that's not even close to a planche push-up, but I was still learning the movement, right? I don't think my body was used to extending my hips all the way out, and the pushing movement just felt really weird to balance. But that'll improve as we move forward. Now at this point I started actually attempting the full planche with no bands, nothing. And then here I was still doing some more banded work despite attempting the planche still. Bands help a lot. I can't recommend them enough, because you can just get longer hold times and get your body more acclimated to the movement than just trying to go for the attempts with your ego. Now here I was actually attempting the movement again. You know, my legs are still a little bit high, but I was pretty much getting there, right? I did a wide planche here, which I was actually pretty surprised I could hold. Kind of doing the Maltese with the band. Maltese is really difficult, so I probably shouldn't have even been attempting that yet. But I was surprising myself with the wide planche, considering I never trained it. Floor planche here, just to get more variation. Floor planche is difficult. It's very difficult. Here was another decent full planche, although my body was a little bit shaky, but still held it for like 3 seconds. Again, more push-ups, but I'm not holding it, so they're not actually full planche push-ups. I'm just kind of getting acclimated to the balance of the movement. Yeah, another full planche here. Decent, not perfect. I started working on my fingertips a little bit just for like 2 weeks. I was surprised my fingers could actually hold my body weight like that without snapping, but I stopped training it after that. Again, not really holding the full planche at the top, so they don't really count, but still fun to try. I did a planche press here with a band, and this band removes about like 13 pounds or so it's a fairly decently light band. Again, trying the full planche push-up, but I'm never holding it. It's very difficult to hold it after the rep. And some days I couldn't even do the planche, so not every day I could do it. I did a 90-degree push-up here, although I could do it beforehand, but I never really added these to my workout. I would just do them sporadically. Here I started experimenting with one-arm handstands. Now I'd unlocked the handstand. I had unlocked it last year in like November-ish for like a solid 30-60 seconds without even really training it that much. Handstand's pretty easy to unlock if you train it consistently, but the one-arm handstand is very difficult. And even though I can do a handstand, I find, as you can see here, I find balancing after push-ups in handstand very difficult. So I just struggle to balance after the reps. Even after 90-degree push-ups like this, I struggle to balance after the reps. So I can't do more than like 1 or 2 consecutively, even though the strength element's pretty easy for me. I started just for fun doing some wide handstands. I would never do these consistently, but just for fun. And here, my legs are just super high, terrible planche, but I kind of lower into the normal planche position there, so that's not bad. I started doing some front levers on the rings, although I've been training front levers since I started training planche. I did them both together. Again, more planche push-ups that are terrible form, but it's kind of getting better. Planche legs still too high, maybe like 15 degrees too high. That needs to be fixed. So what I did here is I tried to fix my form to make my legs not as high. And to do that, I had to fix my planche entrance. My entrance was really bad. My wrist was also kind of jacked up during this time, but that was actually pretty decent planche push-up. I held it for like 0.5 seconds at the end with like 13 pounds of assistance. So I was getting closer to a planche push-up, surprisingly. But my wrist was pretty bad, so at this point I had to, it was kind of impeding my training. And eventually I had to kind of stop for a little bit. I started training the iron cross like towards the beginning of March, and I was actually pretty surprised I could hold it. I couldn't actually do the thing, but at least I could get close to it for never having trained it. Usually the iron cross takes years to learn, but I think the planche kind of helped my straight arm strength at this point. But the issue is after this, like towards the end of March, I just stopped training the iron cross altogether. So I only had like 3 weeks where I trained it, and maybe I'll get back to it in the future. The issue is that I didn't have any place to set up my rings because I'm kind of moving between places, and it's inconsistent, like to try to find where I got to set up my rings and all that. So I'm just kind of putting it to the side for now, although I really did want to train the iron cross more. Here I was actually very impressed. I did a straddle planche push-up, holding the rep at the end. Now the push-up version is harder than the normal planche if you hold it at the end. So a straddle planche push-up is pretty difficult. It's on par with the full planche. Here I did a full planche push-up with like 7 pounds of assistance. So that's a lighter band. Although there is an elastic effect too, right? So it's not like the 7 pounds at the top just remains constant throughout the movement. So it does kind of get a little bit more resistance towards the bottom and bouncing on the way up. But still, again, more experimentation with the one-arm handstand. The problem with the one-arm handstand is it really hurts your wrist. I find the handstand hurts your wrist more than the planche. So that's why I had to stop doing the one-arm handstand for a little while. And I was also getting I don't think I was getting close to it, but considering that I never train the one-arm handstand consistently, like maybe once a week, once every other week, just a few sets, like maybe 3-4 sets, I think I was getting pretty decent. Like I could get it on my fingertips for a few seconds, and eventually you want to just remove your entire hand. Again, more work on my just form and holding the push-ups after the reps instead of just spamming them. And here I was doing some experimenting with some front lever pull-ups. And the front lever pull-up is basically the antagonistic movement to the full planche push-up, so it's also very difficult. Actually, I find the pulling movements more difficult than the push, personally, for my body. But some people, the reverse is true for some people, but yeah, the front lever pull-ups are really difficult in my opinion. Towards the end of the video, I'll show you some of my long-term goals, and you'll see the movements performed by people that can actually perform them. Yeah, the band removes here for the pull-ups maybe about 7 pounds or so because it's a little bit higher. And the fact is, with the front lever pull-up, the curve with the bands, the resistance curve is actually opposite because the higher you go, the less resistance it helps with. And this was the final iron cross attempt that I did. I think I got pretty close. My shoulders could be a little bit lower, but that's pretty close in my opinion. And my full planche push-up was improving considerably in terms of like the form and the feeling. Here I tried to do the planche press again. My balance sucks, so I really can't. I'm kind of putting off the planche press for a while just because my balance is really bad. But Here I tried to do a Maltese with my legs straddled. Again, the Maltese is very difficult, so a bit premature for that. And here, some planche push-ups with 10 pounds of assistance. 10 pounds is a pretty big difference, but that is getting closer to the actual thing, so it's not like I have to use a super heavy band. My planche push-up form again is, still not perfect, but here I was working with a band that's heavier, so maybe like 20 pounds of resistance, just to get the form right and get some more reps. You want to use a band that's not too heavy, that it just kind of detaches you from the movement completely. So I wouldn't recommend using bands that are like more than 40 pounds. That's just kind of ridiculous. But you want to use a band that's supportive enough to give you the opportunity to actually get some volume in, some reps. Now, after this point, my wrist had healed well enough. I just probably had a minor sprain. It wasn't like broken or anything, but then I started doing some handstands again. But the one-arm handstand did feel kind of weird getting back to it. Now at this point, before this point, I had only done straight arm skill movements like planche and front lever. But now I started incorporating some hypertrophy work to get just bigger muscles, right? Bigger biceps are stronger biceps, all else equal. So I started doing some like curls, some bench press, because I don't want a bird chest. The planche is very shoulder intensive and bicep intensive. So I didn't want a bird chest, a disproportionate body in that sense. Although my legs are already disproportionate, but whatever. So yeah, I started doing some bicep curls and bench. My bench press was actually, I hadn't benched in like 4 years. So I was surprised I could do like 200 for 10, 12 reps pretty easily. Not even like going to failure. But I'm taking it slow. I don't want to jump too heavy. And that's after doing all my planche work too. So my bench press was surprising, to be honest. And here I was doing another straddle planche push-up. Again, I'm holding it at the end of the rep, so that's getting pretty good. I can consistently do that. And some good form or decent form full planche push-ups. Again with the lighter band. Now I can hold it after the reps pretty consistently with the band. So I'm definitely getting closer to the full planche push-up. That'll be my goal by the end of the year. Hopefully I can get all the goals that I want, but I don't think that's going to be realistic. So we'll see. And the one-arm handstand is still elusive for me. It doesn't come easy. Like, you're not going to get a one-arm handstand unless you train it. It's just not going to happen. You need to train it consistently, like multiple times a week. If you're doing it once or twice a week like I am, you're not going to get it. It's just period. It's not going to happen. And here I did another straddle planche push-up. Probably could have held it a little bit longer after, but I went for 2 reps. And yeah, so that's pretty much my progress for these last 9 months. So I think I made some good progress, especially considering my height, which my height is about 5'10" barefoot, maybe a little bit above that, 165, 166 right now, pounds. Before, actually, when I unlocked the planche for the first time in like January-ish, my weight was like 155 to 160, but now it's gone up. So actually, even though the progress might not look as fast, I think the weight gain, 5 pounds is a lot to add to the planche. It's more than you'd think. The leverages change because in the planche, the weight is multiplied against the moment arm length, and it makes the movement multiplicative in terms of difficulty. Like, it gets linearly harder the more weight and height you add. Now, obviously, you can't add height to your body because your height's kind of fixed if you've stopped growing. So I can't get taller, but I can add more weight. And even if I add 5 pounds, the planche feels maybe 1.5 times harder. So when I lose some weight again, maybe the planche will get easier and better form, stronger planche. These are my long-term goals, right? That's a Maltese press actually. That's a full Maltese done in an excessively high place. This guy can do like one-arm planches, planche presses. These are very difficult elite movements that, I'm not going to say a handful of people can do on earth, but, it's definitely a select few. There's probably less than a few thousand people that can do that. Less. Maybe like 3,000 or no, even less than 3,000. And those are the front lever pull-ups. Again, very difficult movement. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that by the end of the year, but maybe in 2 years, that'd be a good goal for me. So yeah, that's my progress, guys, up until this point. I hope that helps you. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll try to answer all the questions I can. All right, so I'll see everyone on the next video, and God bless. Take care.